What is going on, Dominators? Rico Garcia here, bringing you yet another episode. Today, we're going to be talking about something that I find really interesting, which is obviously the reconstruction side of the restoration business. And a lot of us contractors and a lot of the conversations that I have with water mitigation, mold remediation contractors, it's always this eternal debate about whether or not they should take on the recon side of the business. Now, obviously, the numbers are really attractive. You've got 100,000, 200,000, $300,000 projects in a lot of cases, but is the juice worth the squeeze? Are you honestly prepared if you don't have a specific department? And we're going to be covering a lot of this with our guest today, Eli, which is going to be walking us through what he does in the restoration business, which is specialize in the recon side. And more importantly, if you're considering it, what are some of the pros? What are some of the cons? Or how you can still participate, give your customer the absolute best service imaginable, but without all of the headaches that come along with the reconstruction side of the business. Before we get started, I want to give a big shout out to each and every single one of our show sponsors. Obviously, it wouldn't be possible for us to be able to do this production without our sponsors. Make sure that you show them some love and support. Their links are going to be located in the video description as well as in the show notes. Go ahead and show them some love because, again, they do help us out with the show. Without further ado, let's jump right into the podcast. Let's go.
Welcome to the Restoration Domination podcast, where you learn actionable advice that moves the needle and helps service-based businesses dominate. Here's your host, Rico Garcia Jr.
What is going on, Dominators? Strap in. Get ready for another episode. Hey, brother, welcome to the show. First and foremost, are you ready to help us dominate?
Absolutely.
Let's go. So do me a favor, fill in some of the gaps on my intro. Let everybody know who you are and exactly what it is that you're doing within the industry.
Absolutely. So my name is Eli Konieczka. I'm with Showroom Ready Homes. We're based out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, but we got offices also in the Houston area. We are a reconstruction only side of the umbrella of restoration. So we go and put Humpty Dumpty back together.
Fair enough. And we were kind of talking off camera, actually, at one of the events, the RIA event. And we were just kind of talking about your history, how you got into the business. So kind of take us back to, the origin story. Like, how did you get into the business? I know that you had a pretty interesting story. It's some in and outs and trying to figure out what to do and all of that stuff. And just kind of, give us a little bit of background on how, where you are today.
Okay, certainly. Yes. So being in Louisiana, we have the joy of lots of hurricanes. I know Florida enjoys that as well.
Yeah.
But Hurricane Katrina is one thing that kind of shaped the history of my career. I was in undergrad studying to go pre-med, and my wife and I were newlyweds, bought our first condo, and being broke college kids, it was absolutely a fixer-upper. So I leaned into it and did it all myself. I just got dirty. This was before YouTube was a thing, so I couldn't even get my YouTube certification. And because of Katrina, we were able to sell our home in 3 months from the date of purchase, and we quadrupled our money. So in my brain, I was thinking like, man, this is fun. I could totally do this. And so over the years, just off and on doing handyman stuff, pursued the business world and things like that, but have always found myself back in construction. And so we started Showroom Ready Homes a little less than 2 years ago, and it just happened to fall right on the day Hurricane Ida hit here in Louisiana. And we started it not even in the reconstruction world, because I'd been doing retail work and working with realtors and things like that. But lo and behold, people distrust contractors.
Yeah, is that a thing? People don't really trust contractors? Who would have thought, right?
Evidently. And so with that foundation of distrust in our society, and contractors post CAT event just being very advantageous and taking advantage of people, we began to have an influx of insurance customers needing help. And I wrote an estimate for a guy for rebuild, and the adjuster wrote back and said, I need this in Xactimate. I just talked to him on the phone. I said, what the hell is Xactimate?
Right.
And so I had some friends at a local restoration company kind of give me insight into it. I got the free version and figured it out. And it's fun, and evidently I like fighting with the with adjusters. So that kind of pivoted our business because economy, interest rates go up, real estate slows down, people's expenses go up, so they stop spending on renovations.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of leaned into the restoration side of the world and have gotten really, really good at it. So we just really over a year and a half have kind of focused on the restoration world. We've gotten really good at supplementation, and our process is, I'm actually going to get a shirt made for it. It says, we don't write estimates, we write supplements.
Right.
Because that's at the end of the day, that's how we best serve our clients.
Mm-hmm.
And that's our biggest value proposition for those folks.
Nice. So, what about when most people are in the restoration arena? Typically, they kind of shy away from the reconstruction side, right? They're like, oh man, it's just like, the profit margins seem to be a little bit tighter. There's a lot of other things that can go wrong. There's a lot more resistance on the repair side. So maybe there's someone who's listening to the show, watching the show, and they're like, well, you know what? I've been thinking about, reconstruction. They may not have all the knowledge. They may not have all the tools. They may not have the confidence needed in order to jump into that side of the business. So, and I'm sure that a lot of the people that you're doing business with are actually a lot of those restoration contractors, right? That kind of just shy away from it. Do me a favor and give me both sides of the story, right? Give me the starting by if someone is a restoration owner and they want to get into the recon side, what are the pros and cons? And then give me the version B of, hey, stay in your lane. If you're a good restoration contractor, water mitigation, mold remediation, biohazard, stay in your lane and still participate through strategic partnering with a company such as yours. So give me both versions.
Okay, so the benefit of offering the rebuild side or the putback side is we've seen in our partnerships that when that front end emergency service or mitigation company can offer a turnkey, they do everything. That homeowner is more apt to say, hey, you have my business, you got this.
Right.
So adding that to your repertoire of services absolutely opens your bandwidth for clientele. On the MIT side, I don't envy the MIT guys because you go and do a service and you're fighting for your bill at the end.
Right.
On rebuild, we do everything post approval. So we write our own check. As long as we can defend and document what's on our supplement, we get it approved. So if we're good at what we do on writing supplements, then we write our own check and we best serve the homeowner in that capacity because at that point, we're not missing anything because we're the expert in the home, in the field, knowing what needs to happen. So adding that to your services that you offer absolutely brings a level of stability because in a CAT event, you may have 100 emergency services. You go and dry out 100 homes. Well, you might have 6 months of nothing. Well, if you're doing rebuild on those 100 homes, you now have 6 months of construction.
Right.
Right. So you carry over. Now, that's if you want to in-house and be that turnkey. Now, staying in your lane is absolutely vital because on the mid side, it is higher margins, right? I've heard guys making 75%.
Right.
When you're doing that, you can manage your customer acquisition costs, manage your processes, and focus on training your employees in a specific vein. And having a partner like us who do what we do and do it well, you're able to onboard that customer. And because of partnership with a company like Showroom, you're able to offer that customer that same turnkey professional service. You do your part, we do our part because we deal with the insurances, we speak insurance. And our commitment to those homeowners is they have nothing out of pocket except their deductible. And whether you pay that to MIT or your roofing company or us, I don't care. We just have to show it's documented that you paid it.
Right.
Everything else that we get paid, we document, we supplement, and that money is coming from the insurance carrier, and we cover our bill like on that end. So letting the MIT company do what they do, us do what we do, they're able to just roll. And whenever we come across mitigation clients, we now have somebody to send them to. We can offer that full turnkey service as well. And Mrs. Homeowner, I understand you wanted this bathroom remodel, but you've had this leaky faucet for a while. This needs to be dried out. Let me call my partners over here. They're good at what they do. So it really is a symbiotic relationship that can be done all in-house, or like a lot of the mitigation companies we work with, they want to do what they do and do it well.
Right. So one of the things that I've mentioned quite a bit on the show, it's the power of a single mindset, right? Like this singularity, because most restoration businesses, you speak to an owner and they're like, oh well, I own a restoration business. Right. But within that business, you kind of have several businesses, right? You have your water mitigation business, you have your mold business, you have your contents, if you're doing that, your fire restoration.
Yep.
So in a lot of ways, it's really four, 3 to 4 businesses under just one roof. You add recon to that. All of a sudden, that's a whole different animal, right? And this presents a lot of issues. Number one, it's 4 different ways or 5 different ways of marketing for client acquisition. Means you have to really know how to stretch your dollar. And then you also have employees and, training issues, right? So, it's for the right type of company that is willing to go through that, then great, if you got the skill set. But there's a lot more. Sometimes I think there's a huge advantage to partnering with a company that specializes in that. They enjoy doing the reconstruction. They've got it down to a science. They understand, what the cost is for materials and labor. They can time frame it properly. And I think that a lot of restoration contractors, they see the big number, right? They're like, oh, this is a $200,000, reconstruct. Yeah, but $200,000 in water mit or $200,000 in mold remediation is very, very different than $200,000 in a recon. And I know that it's basic, and it's like people are listening. It's like, well, yeah, of course, Rico, we know that. But you'd be surprised of how many contractors just look at that number and are like, oh man, I'm leaving $200,000 on the table. Well, no, I mean, because you've got not only the employees and the subcontractors, but then you get the material cost, which normally isn't even a factor in a lot of remediation cases, right? So what's been your experience with that? I mean, have you seen some people kind of like bite the bullet and be like, oh man, they kind of get into the game and then all of a sudden they're like, man, you know what? This is a really bad idea.
Yeah, so we have one of our main referral partners here in town. The owners actually come from a construction background, so he knew construction. But when he gets good at the MIT side, right? So when you talk to, when 2 different mitigation guys get together, they're always going to be able to mitigate their own way, a different way. And everybody's always pushing for the latest technology, whether it's drying mats or injection blowing, all that other stuff, right? On the MIT side, there's always some advantage you're pushing. It's the same thing on the rebuild side. How do we get this done the quickest, the fastest? How do we train up to do this better? How do we adhere to new building codes? So on that company that came from construction, he got into mitigation and wanted to do both. And he did exactly that. I mean, I did 50,000 in MIT, but this rebuild's 150,000, so I'm going to take it. Well, what he realized after a couple of years of doing that, even though he did 700,000 in rebuild, how much time and resources did it take for maybe a 30% margin that he could have gone and done 700,000 more in mitigation and made his 50, 60, 70% margin.
Right.
So on the front end, first couple of years of doing his company, he was absolutely caught by those numbers, thinking it was revenue, cash flow. And cash flow is king to an extent.
Right.
You have to be profitable in it.
Right.
And that's a difference that he began to see because he was trying to do rebuild with his water techs. And it's a skill set that doesn't necessarily translate. And so as we began to work together, he began to see value in it because he was able to hand over those clients to somebody that understood the industry, understood how to put Humpty Dumpty back together, but then play the insurance game and get everything done and done well, whether it's through O&L coverage or code enforcement or manufacturer specs, and not just settling for closing the wall back up.
Fair enough, man. So one of the things that I like to ask a lot of business owners such as yourself is if you could turn back the hands of time, or if you're speaking to a new entrepreneur, what are the top 2 to 3 questions that you wish more people entering the space would ask before they make a decision?
Yep. So I think the first one is, and everybody knows it is, who's your customer?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, it's actually funny that you say that, because you say that, most people think that they know, but the reality is that they don't. Like, a lot of people are like, yeah, I just want I just want revenue. Whoever has a house, that's my customer. No.
Yep.
Whoever's got water
Yep.
damage, that's my customer. No. Right. So really getting
Yep.
granular with who that customer is, right?
Yeah. And really understanding where your biggest, so who's your customer and what variation of that customer do you offer the highest value?
Mm,
Because as your value goes up, your ability to charge goes up.
right.
And so for us, it was, oh, people selling homes or people with storm damage, people, no, it's ultimately who are those people, those homeowners calling? That became our
Hmm.
customer. So we began to seek other industry partners because we offer the most value to them for their business. For example, that mitt company who was struggling to deal with construction, hey, look, let us serve you in that capacity. So we began to join forces. And now we're to our version of the customer, which is that policy holder. So identifying the level of customer and where we add the most values. Because if you're just shooting a shotgun hoping to hit something, you'll hit something, but it's gonna be that
Right.
much. Whereas if you get close enough to your target with that same shotgun, you're gonna make a much bigger impact. And so knowing your customer, what variation it is, but then where do you genuinely, and this is going to have to make you take a sober assessment of your business, your skill set, and ultimately get to what true value do you add. And my stubbornness and tenaciousness to, if it's right, I'm going to fight tooth and nail for it, lets me do well in the insurance industry because my client is that policyholder, that homeowner, and I, dadgummit, will fight tooth and nail to get what they deserve based off of their contract with the carrier.
That's great, man. And so what do you see like the biggest when it comes down to marketing properly? As whether you're doing water mitigation or if you're doing the recon side of things, right? Marketing properly to that individual that you've identified as, hey, this is the group of people that have my money. Like, in my opinion, like that should be the number one question is like, who's got my money? Who has access to my money? Who's the
Yeah.
gatekeeper to my money and the revenue sources for my business? So once you like identify those individuals, right? Like, how do you market properly? Are you just, doing a lot of networking and, shaking hands, kissing babies? Are you using digital? Are you using, physical, old school style marketing? Like, what's been your secret sauce, and what would you recommend to other contractors that are looking to get a steady lead flow?
Yep. So getting in the right order, right? So you said shaking hand, kissing babies. If you start kissing hands and shaking babies, you got something
Hmm.
wrong. And so for us, it was a lot of on the front end just meeting with individual people, the one-offs of whether it's the field tech or the project manager, things like that. But what we found the greatest success of is getting to people that are the decision
Hmm.
makers and knowing your customer. So for us, those industry partners, getting into those circles that you're able to see them face to face, whether it's RIA or your local plumbers associations, to where the guys that are there are seeking stability, growth opportunity, just like you are. So you're able to engage with those guys that are first off like-minded. So that's networking in the industry and our sector has been the greatest advantage for us to our number one customer, which is our referring partner. Now to the homeowner, that is just simply brand awareness. So that's, we do some small print publications in some targeted areas of our cities. We do just some online stuff, and our business developers help cultivate our social media. We don't do anything crazy. We just want, if people are referred to us by a MIT company, we want to build their understanding and confidence in us through our online presence.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be robust because they're not randomly having to come across us.
Hmm.
They're searching for us.
Right.
And so as long as what we have there when they find us bolsters their confidence in what we do,
Hmm.
we found a great level of success there.
That's awesome, man. So I kind of want to switch gears a little bit, but kind of stay within this realm, right? And I want to talk about because you kind of spoke about brand awareness a little bit, and I think a lot of contractors, I think most businesses have this aspect confused, which is what makes you different? And individually, of course, we're all different, right? But when it comes down to like water mitigation, for example, or mold remediation or reconstruction, even to some degree, you're putting back a piece of drywall and paint, taping, hanging, taping, mudding, finishing, right? Painting, pretty much like that's it. Like there's no difference in one company doing it versus another company do it, besides maybe some nuances, right? And the point that I'm getting at is what really creates a difference when it comes down to branding and positioning. Like what really is that thing that creates a difference? Because everybody says that they have this new system, or that they're different, or that they're honest, or that they have integrity, and they use these like one liners, right, that everybody else uses 24/7, free estimates, like this and that. It's like, dude, this is stuff that everybody else is doing. The general public is numb to it. So what should a company do to genuinely make a difference between them, like a clear night and day difference between them and some of the other companies that are available? But before you answer that, let's just take a quick moment and thank our sponsors. Are you tired of managing salespeople? And let's be honest, I mean, sometimes you even really feel like you know what you're doing when it comes down to managing a sales team. And this is where Wylander comes in. With over 40 years of sales management experience, they can do it for you. And the best part is they can do it for a fraction of the cost of hiring a full-time sales manager. So listen, do yourself a favor. Call Wylander today and see what a difference a real sales manager can do for your company. Dominators, let's face it, your company will make it or break it on the backs of your estimating team. But if we're honest here for a second, what tools have you actually given them to succeed? The actionable profile is the newest tool inside of your estimator's toolbox, or at the very least, it should be. The actionable Xactimate profile is a data-driven solution that provides real-time estimating guidance on the fly. It checks for both overages, omissions in your estimates in real time, leading your team to having much more accurate scopes each and every single time that they're writing an estimate. Avoid any kind of potential conflicts with the adjuster and ensure that your estimates include every single warranted line item with the actionable Xactimate profile. Get your free demo today. If you head on over to value.getinsights.org/dominate, we've got an amazing offer for you. Again, head on over to value.getinsights.org/dominate and get your free demo today. Hey, Dominators, one claim can improve your profitability and accelerate your cash flow while focusing more on what matters most, which is running your business. They know that managing insurance billing and collections on disaster mitigation jobs can be painful. And listen, dealing with adjusters that are always pushing back on your claims documents, carriers that delay their payments for months on end, and your team spends a ton of time and effort only to get suboptimal outcomes most of the time. But over at OneClaim, they know how to work with adjusters and how to justify and settle your claims. Their team of attorneys are well-trained claims advocates, and they have experience in regulations, policies, and all the laws that pertain to disaster mitigation, as well as homeowners insurance. They know all the ins and outs and leverage that expertise to increase your overall collections on disaster mitigation work. They work also with proprietary software systems that enable their claims advocates to push your invoices through the carrier's billing process quickly. They pride themselves on insurance leading processing times. Go ahead and contact them today for a free consultation. If you head on over to oneclaimsolution.com/dominate, you can go ahead and pop in your information and get your free consultation today. Again, that is oneclaimsolution.com/dominate. Hey, Dominators, did you know that about 80% of businesses are actually unsellable? This is why you need to let Restoration Brokers of America work with you to ensure that you maximize the value of your business when you decide that it's time for a change. All you have to do is visit sellmyrestorationbusiness.com for more information. You've worked hard to build it. Now let RBA work hard to sell it. All right. And we are back. So we kind of left it off with, really what makes a difference, right? Like when it comes down to branding and positioning, when it comes down to selling, when you're in front of that customer, they're probably getting other bids. Now, mind you, you guys have got this really great advantage. And the way that you've kind of modeled it is you've got a great advantage. You came recommended. So you went straight to the source, the gatekeeper of the money. And you're like, hey, by the way, when you've got this deal, they've already trust that individual. that individual, hopefully the water mitigation company in this scenario, they did a great job. Betty, who was really stressed out about this and what she was going to do with the water. This guy came, saved, and now she's like, well, I need to put this back together again. She's going to trust whoever it is, right? But now you still have to do a little bit of selling and branding, and they're still going to vet you. What should companies really do to make themselves stand above, head and shoulders above their competition?
So that, for us, it's been having full confidence in your process. I remember when I first started doing this, I didn't know what I was doing, whether it's as a handyman or first time getting into reconstruction. And me not knowing my numbers, not knowing my process, I was grasping at straws, and I didn't convey that air of, I got this, we're your best bet. So having full confidence in what you do, knowing that, one, I'm going to be profitable in this, and two, having that as your foundation, that you're going to make money, then you can freely serve the client. And knowing that I am good, we are as a company good at writing supplements, I can confidently convey to my homeowner that, hey, I don't want your money. I don't care. I don't need a money today. I'll help you figure out your deductible. If you need financing, we got it. Kind of pushing that front end off, because if something happens, people always, first thing they do is, how much is this going to cost? First thing, right? Because they've just had all these blowers and equipments, or houses demolished, and they still don't know how this is being paid for. So when we come in, put that to rest. Hey, I'm not here to get your money. I'm here to serve you, and they now see you as a confidant, as a partner in the process. That, for us, lets me be in a position to confidently sell in a different capacity, because I don't need your money. I don't want your money. Your deductible is simply a component of your compulsory action per your contract.
Right.
That's just, it has to happen, right? And so we convey that on the front end, and when the homeowner understands we're not there to get their money, and how we lay out the payment schedule once money starts flowing from the carrier, they remain in control, in the driver's seat of, we don't want 100% upfront, or you're not going to get a bill. It's us knowing where our money comes from, where our process lies, and being full aware of that and how it affects the client. That lets us be able to be different, because chucking a truck down the road is going to want money today.
Right. And then what are you doing on the billing side of things? Like, once you've actually, collected the funds and all of that stuff, in a lot of cases, there's money that's going, the homeowner's on the check, you're on the check, and all of that stuff. Like, what have you done to streamline that aspect?
Yep. So actually ran across surety on your podcast a few months ago. So working with Duffy and Taylor over there. So we're engaged with surety. So on projects that meet those criteria, we get those guys involved to help kind of assuage the fears of all the parties. But on projects that are not going through surety, we are perpetually building that relationship with the homeowner to where we don't have to worry about them showing up with a brand new car when we're trying to get a materials payment.
Right.
Now, we've had that happen. But there's a lot of qualifying to be our client on the front end.
I guess the follow-up question is what was it, at the very least, was it a nice car?
No, it was a beater. I mean, it's just a new, and so this is what caused us to begin to vet our clientele.
Right.
And that's putting on your big boy pants as a business owner and realizing not every homeowner is your client.
Yep.
If that homeowner is trying to make money from this insurance claim, they're not our client.
Right.
Because at that point, I'm just going to write you a retail estimate and you can't afford it.
Right.
So when the process works as it should, the homeowner just wants their home restored.
Right.
And we're good at that. If they submit to the process, the engine, the system that exists of homeowner insurance rebuild process, then it works. And then they understand it, we understand it. We have a draw schedule based around the ACV checks that are released, the RCV checks, the depreciation checks. So we collect as those come in. And then our back office estimating and receivables department, they're also in contact with that adjuster. Part of the whole package is we know when those checks are being released because we get to know the adjuster, whether good or bad, because we're the advocate for that homeowner to understand the process. And so when we know checks are coming in, we know when it's going to hit, we're involved in that whole process to where when the homeowner gets the money, they're happy to release it because we've earned it. And we get rid of
Yeah,
that
so it's
fear
all
of the
about the
unknowing of
pre-framing,
I don't know
right?
what's
So it's
going
all
on,
about the
what's next, what's
pre-framing
next.
and making
When,
sure that the customer is actually understanding each step of the process, right? Understanding each step
yep,
of the process. They understand that, okay, once we achieve X, we get paid X. These checks that are
yep,
coming in, this is not free money. This is owed to us. And there's,
yep,
something that I've said a million times is not all money is good money, right? Like you have to have that, you have to be in tune with your intuition. Like I think we've all walked into a project and right from the get-go you get this funny feeling in your stomach that something's a little off, like you just can't quite trust. Like you started saying, you started off the podcast by saying, inherently most customers don't trust contractors, but that's a two-way street. As a
absolutely.
matter of fact, so it's a funny thought. Like, how there's plenty of reviews. You can look up any contractor. Like, there
Mhm.
should be a database. Like, I thought about developing a database for customers, where contractors can like go in, type in the person's name, address, and be like, oh, this person screwed over ABC painting. Maybe this isn't a good customer for us, right? Watch that be a thing now
Yep,
that I like mentioned it on the podcast.
that's right.
But
Yeah, you
developing
can
that
almost do
trust.
that. Yeah, you can almost look up old who's got the most amount of mechanics liens against their home.
Yeah, exactly, right. Yeah, and it's that two-way street of just really listening to your intuition and be like, hey, look, this person's really looking just to profit. They don't really want to put their stuff back together again. And the last thing that anybody wants to be caught up in is in some kind of a debate about, okay, well, now you put in money, now you've got your team and everybody else. It's time and money. And all of a sudden now you have
Yep.
to battle to get your money. Like you already have to do enough battling with the insurance company. The last thing you want to do
Yeah.
is have another war with the client. So let's talk about personnel. Let's talk about talent. Right now, this is there's massive labor shortages. There's less and less people that actually are entering the trades. So what's been your experience with that, right? Hiring good quality people, finding good quality people, and then also finding good quality subcontractors that have a good system in place in order for them to continue acquiring good quality talent. Like what's the secret sauce there that you've noticed?
Yeah. So for us, we just hire taller staff, so we're never short staffed.
What was that now?
I said we just hire taller staff, so we're not
Ha
short
ha.
staffed. No, certainly. And so one thing that we found, and we have a mix of internal labor and the utilizing subcontractors. Um, and first off, having the understanding that there are some people that end up in the trades because they just made bad decisions early on in life. Um, and it just stuck with them, whether it, who knows what, but they just kind of fell into the trade. We have the desire to not have these guys just say, "Oh, I'm a painter," but I'm a skilled craftsman in my trade. So
Right.
by whether that's our internal guys or subs we work with, one, we want to bolster their competence and let them feel appreciated for the quality and craft that they provide. So doing that builds loyalty. With that loyalty comes the ability to train them up, if it's a subcontractor, on how to better run their business.
Mm-hmm.
And as you build this loyalty, you're going to get better guys that want to feel appreciated, that want to have a better business, are guys that actually give a care about what they do. And those are the guys that you're bringing in. And now, obviously, you have turnover. You obviously have the ebb and flow of internal employees, subcontractors. But for our subs, because of the model that we've established, they're not having to go hunt down the homeowner. They get paid from us when they invoice us. They're not having to worry about their marketing scheme or how to get to their ideal client because we become their ideal client. So by ensuring that the front end of our business that's facing our referral partners, facing our homeowners, making sure that that works, ensures that the backside, our subcontractor relationship, ensures that that works effectively. So it is once again just like the MIT and rebuild. It's the GC subcontractor relationship has to have that same give and take. So we get better pricing from our subs because they're no longer having to worry about marketing and collections efforts and things like that. So it is a give and take there. So we gain a lot of loyalty in those arenas.
And that's a great point, because one of the things that I don't hear enough about is how one contractor can help another contractor actually build their business, right? And that's a very good point that you just brought up. So for example, one of the things that we did in our restoration arena, and it accounted for tons and tons of money, was we would look at some of our strategic partners, whether this was a mold assessor, let's say, or if it was a reconstruction company, or if it was a plumber, and we would look at their general marketing. And what we would do is we would go ahead and tweak what they were doing on their front end. We weren't charging for that. We weren't participating in anything outside of, if they had a bump in business, which they always did, guess what was happening? Well, if it was a plumber, he was getting water calls, and then in turn, I would get that call. If it was a mold assessor and his phone started ringing, and all of a sudden he did a mold assessment, and it was a $30,000-$40,000 mold job, but guess where he got that lead from? He got it from me because I put in the effort. Well, now all of a sudden, now I'm making, $30,000, $40,000 in revenue, right? So kind of taking this, I don't want to say mentor approach, but almost like a consultative approach to the strategic partners that you have. And look, a lot of times it's a two-way street, right? Sometimes you're helping someone with a certain weak aspect of their business, but they've got a really strong side of their business that maybe you're like, oh man, how are they doing that? Right?
Yeah, and it's that two-way street. And as whenever you're not looking to take advantage of everybody you're engaged with,
Right.
it works. And some guys are absolutely just snakes. They're only looking out for number one, and it's not a win-win situation.
Right.
And so having that camaraderie, that hey, you stay in your lane, I'm gonna stay in my lane. How can we both grow, right? So a lot of subcontractors are business owners, and there's a difference between being self-employed and a business owner. These self-employed guys are guys that work for themselves.
Right.
They all want to make that transition to being business owners where they have crews.
Right.
They just don't know how to do it. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying we have the silver bullet to fix everything, but we've operated in this little bit bigger, higher end arena. So we help train those guys up because I want them to grow up, not be solely reliant on us, but to build a legacy for their kids and their families. And if we can participate in that, and as a company have a better product that we're offering, a broader array of clients we can take on, or more detailed specific services in those relationships, because that subcontractor is getting better at what they do, just from education, training up, mentoring. That's a win for everybody because ultimately it's Showroom's name on that contract. And if we're offering the best service possible, we win and that sub wins because guess who's getting the next job with us?
Yep. 100%. So what do you see on the insurance billing side now? There's been a lot of changes. It seems like the noose is getting tighter and tighter. What's kind of your personal opinion on what's happening in the arena of insurance billing? And then what are you guys doing to kind of stay on top of that?
Yep. It's never fun. And like I said, I don't envy the mitigation guys because you're in property. I don't envy that arena or that side of it, but it's really it's a circular system because with implementing the pricing systems that exist, whether it's Xactimate or Symbility, a lot of guys are transitioning just to lump sum billing, letting the homeowner deal with it. All of that feeds back into the system of when people are forcing the use of Xactimate. That's
Right.
where we started. Right. I need this bid in Xactimate. Okay. Well, if I know I need to make this much money to stay in business, I'm going to master Xactimate to where I can make this much money. And and this goes outside of our industry with the furthering of building codes and with IECC codes coming in for enforcement on energy efficiency, all that comes into play. And as a contractor being good at what we do and being in legal compliance, utilizing that system allows me to make sure that I'm fully compensated. Well, then that leads into fighting with the adjusters. Then you bring in whether it goes to appraisal or public adjusting or litigation, which ultimately all builds in the cost of the premiums for the homeowner. So it's really, everything affects everything. And so for us, having the mindset of, I don't want to have a singular windfall on anybody, but I cannot work for free. Because if I'm working for free, that means the next homeowner that needs us is not going to have us. So
Yep.
it's protecting what you do, making sure that we're ethical and honest. We don't do crazy markups on everything. We try to play the game as smooth as we can, but we don't miss anything. It's not uncommon common for us to take a $10,000 initial rebuild estimate from the adjuster. I have one in Houston, start off at $13,000, and through the course, we're going to end up around 160 because of just code issues that were exposed, right? So we're serving the homeowner, but per the rules that be, insurance is responsible for remedying those because as a contractor, we can't close it. So everything plays into it. And so where does that get fixed? Do you stop the government from imposing building codes, which causes us to do more work, which causes us to bill more to the carrier, which causes premiums to go up? Everything's a circle. It has to be a holistic approach, just like in healthcare. It's the same thing on the health insurance side of the world. I'm not smart enough to figure it out, but the best thing is to take normal, practical, ethical engagement in the process. I can tell you from whenever we have an adjuster who understands what we do and writes a good front-end estimate, and we have very little supplementation, everything goes a lot smoother and a lot quicker, and there's not less service to the homeowner, but it forces us, if we're not having to fight to be profitable on a job, then we're not going to be fighting to be profitable. We take what's there, and if we can get it done and best serve the homeowner, we do it. Because our job is to be in and out. But if it begins a battle, then we're going to be looking for every single minutia of that project that we can bill ethically and legally, it gets billed. So just everybody coming to the table, in my opinion, just, hey, let's do what's right per the contract and not be single-handed in your action would fix a lot of this. But like I do, that'll never happen.
Right. So just to kind of wrap up here, if someone's is in your general area, right, they want to learn a little bit more about you, maybe they've been looking to partner with someone just such as yourself, where would they go ahead and learn more about you, learn more about your company?
Yep. So our website is showroomreadyhomes.com. You can get on there. There's a partner with us link if you want to reach out and become a referral partner, or you want to become a subcontractor with us. Like I said, we have offices in Baton Rouge area as well as the Houston area. We're always looking for qualified, competent subs. Or if you're a homeowner that just wants somebody that knows how to, unfortunately, play the insurance game, definitely go there, reach out to us, and we can serve you in that capacity as well.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much, brother, for taking some time out of your busy schedule to hang out with us here and help us dominate and give us some of your insights about, what it's like to be on the recon side and some of the pros and cons. And for all those dominators out there, take this and look at your business and say, hey, look, you've been considering, maybe adding recon to the roster, or is it maybe perhaps more profitable for you and your company long-term about, if you just partner with the right individual, right, in your local area? How can you leverage those relationships so that you can go ahead and not only add profitability to other contractors and subcontractors, but also to your business as well? Sometimes in business, less is in fact more, especially if you're looking to dominate a particular space in business. And always look at it through the same lens: hustle, hack, dominate. I'll catch you guys on the next one.
You've been listening to Restoration Domination, your #1 resource for tips, tricks, and hacks to help your business grow. Subscribe to our channel and follow us for more Restoration Domination. And follow our host at Rico Garcia Jr. on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Till next time, this is Restoration Domination. Hustle, hack, dominate.